right, welcome everybody. So today we are going to be talking about probably our most important piece of our audit. So this is the thing that grew our law firm the most. It's the thing that when we work with clients and they really embrace it, it's the thing that actually activates their law firm the most. It is also one of the biggest areas that is lacking in law firms that we work with and law firms generally. In larger businesses, you typically are going to run into a position that is a revenue operations manager, director, VP, something like that. This role, this function, this opportunity to embrace really will help you optimize and maximize your firm as an asset. And what this whole practice is at Rocket Clicks that we like to bring to our clients really covers 6 big points. And it's what it is like bringing together all of the glue. It's the connective tissue. It's the glue between marketing, sales, and service. And when done really well, you exponentially grow your firm because you're actually working on all the things that make the biggest differences. So what we found in our own business, Sterling Lawyers, and in businesses that we work with, we can do a really good job in marketing, but nothing happens from a revenue perspective. A firm can do a really good job with sales, but if they don't have marketing feeding it, again, you're not going to grow. You can do a really good job with service. And if you don't have sales and marketing working together, you're actually not going to be able to service many clients, and you're also not going to grow. So what's really key is something called revenue operations. And the way we look at it is there's 6 buckets here. So there's intake process optimization, there's consult scheduling efficiency, there's consultation process optimization, sales automation, data capture and utilization, and then revenue operations reporting and utilization. So I'm going to go through each of these buckets because there is sub elements in each one. And I'm going to generally walk through what does it look like to grade well in each of these 6 categories. And when we're doing a really good job, we're going to see the firm grow. When we're kind of going down, and you can read this on our website. So there's a page that we have that I'm looking at as we're recording this video called Revenue Operations Quick Audit Guide for Family Law Firms. All of this is there. So on the intake optimization process. So what we're really looking for there is how well is your intake team. So we go from marketing that we're doing. We talked about a bunch of those different opportunities, whether that's SEO, whether that's paid, it's making your website faster, it's listings, it's advertising, whatever those things are. There's a bunch of things happening over here. It gets to a point where it gets into the sales process. And like the first step of that is intake. And there's some key elements here. So one is your inbound and outbound communication. So like how excellent are you at this? Are you answering 85% of your calls and ensuring like you're giving a great experience on those? If you get a web lead, is your web lead response time, can you measure it? And if you can, is it less than 5 minutes? It's critical. There's tons and tons of data out there. You can go research it yourself. That after 5 minutes, your likelihood to connect with that person that sent you a web lead, it's less than 10%. So it's almost like a waste of a lead. It's almost useless at that point. So your web lead response time, and then your outbound follow-up process. Do you have an outbound process at all? Or are you just answering phones and responding to web leads as they potentially come in and you're not really managing this well? So those are just on inbound and outbound excellence. Those are super important. So on outbound, are you actually doing a strategic follow-up touch point for all of your qualified people that didn't yet schedule a consultation? So the second big category under intake is, do you have a magical call center experience? What are you intentionally making it magical? There are 5 things that we look for here. They're easy to do if you put some intention behind it. What you want to, if you're really good at answering the phones at a law firm, you're going to do these 6. You're going to do these 5 things. Clients are going to trust you. They're going to feel like they can trust you. They're going to like the person they're talking to on the phone. They're going to feel like that person is an expert and reliable. They're going to get good information, If they say, in a lot of this reliability is like, if you said you're going to follow up and give them information, you actually follow up and give them information on the date and the time that you said you do it. Easy checkpoint, easy credits doing that. And then you're making meaningful connections with the prospect. If in the family law space, clients that are going through this, they are going through an extraordinarily difficult time, right? Divorce is one of the top most stressful life events that are going to occur. So if you can make a connection on the phone and like actually have them communicate the story to the person that they're talking to, they don't want to do this more than once. They really want to talk to someone that cares, that empathizes with them, that gives them reliable information, that allows them not to have to like reburden themselves with retelling the same exact story again to another firm. But unfortunately, what we experience a lot of the times is a firm may not be set up well operationally, and a paralegal who's not necessarily a call center person, they can do a really good job. So don't get me wrong on this. But typically that person's role is to support the attorney in their legal work. So they're doing lots of stuff. They're interfacing with the court clerks. They're doing all the things that are helping support the attorney's billable hours. That's usually their primary function. So when they get an intake call, their likelihood to be very empathetic, if they have to do this over and over again all day and service the attorneys to help them achieve more billable hours, it's going to be a great experience for the callers. So it's going to be managed less, and like you're not going to create this magical call center experience. So that's the second category, magical call center experience. And then the third and the easiest one is, do you have a very clear, comprehensive lead qualification process? So like, do you know exactly what it means to take a lead that doesn't count for anything and make it a marketing qualified lead? And it's generally, a couple different things. So for us at Sterling, it's three components. Are you located where we can serve you? Do you have a family law case? And do you have the ability to pay something? Now we're not asking for income, but we are looking for, are they potentially on government assistance, and are they on some of these programs? Because if they are, they're not going to be able to afford our services. And we have created a really good experience, not push them back to Google, because that would be a bad idea, is a really robust network of referral systems, so that potential client still has a great experience. And then we are funneling those to places where they can get all the answers that they need, and they have that magical experience with our team. And they have the team has a very clearly defined process of like, here are the couple things that I need to get and make sure I understand so I can qualify them. So do we have a comprehensive lead qualification process? This is super easy, but what it does, especially if we can define it and then track it, this gives me a list as a marketer to then go into the marketplace and start targeting these people using lots of different methods to help drive them down the funnel to convert more sales. So intake. If we're going to get an A grade if we are answering 85% of our inbound calls, our web lead response time is less than 5 minutes. We have a systematic outbound follow-up process for all leads that are not yet scheduled. We're measuring our magical call center experience, and we have a very clearly defined lead qualification process. So, and then if you look at our grading sheet, you can go down that list. You can get, B, C, or D based on how you're doing on these different things. Second part, consultation scheduling efficiency. So what we're looking for here is we want to be in our call center experience, our team that's answering the phones. What we want is a really efficient scheduling process. So there are three parts to this. So one is the existence of scaled offers, and you're gonna hear this twice. So one is scaled offers from the intake to the consultation process. So that's one place that we want to see scaled offers, and this includes Maybe this person calls, they're doing research and they're not ready for a consultation yet. How are you making sure you convert them and add value? Because wasting the attorney's time with a consult might not be the right thing to do. It might be the right thing to do. It's very dependent on the situation. But do you have webinars that you can schedule them with? Can your team, your intake team, schedule them for those recorded webinars? Do you have live events, live workshops that you do maybe once a month that you could schedule them for? So like those are 2 free offers. Do you have the opportunity to meet with the paralegal? And maybe like they're just going to answer some like facilitation questions, not give them any legal advice, but help them understand what the process is going to really feel like. Do you have an attorney offer? Here's what a consultation costs, or here's a free consultation. So we do paid consultations at Sterling. A bunch of our clients we encourage to do that because we think creating scaled offerings and then identifying for the client as they're talking to us with all their facts and situation, we can do what really good salespeople do is do fact finding, give the information, fit them to the right service, sell up, always sell up, and then after we sell up, sell down. So we're going to say, this situation sounds great for a paid consultation with one of our attorneys. Some people like to come in right away and do a in-depth coaching session. That's going to cost you a little bit more. Or if you're not ready for all of that, you can meet with one of our consult paralegals, and they can walk you through what a free. That's not going to cost you anything, and they can walk you through generally what this is going to look and feel like logistically. So they're going to give you some information that you might not have. What most people do is they meet with an attorney, and then we help them move forward from there. But again, scaled offers. Do we have scaled offers? Are we offering them? How are we doing this? And is it efficient with our call center team? Can they do all of these things there, or is it really clunky? So that's number 1, scaled offers. Number 2, do you have prompt consultation measurement? So 2 things under measurement. One is, do you have the ability to report on and measure how quickly you're scheduling potential clients for consultations? Are you keeping them under that magic 3-day target? Because if they go over 3 days, they're going to go back to Google. They're going to find another person. They're going to call them, and they're not going to show up. And if they do show up, they're less likely to close, because what has occurred is somebody else met with them before they met with you. They unburdened themselves with that whole story. They've built, if that other attorney did a good job, they built that emotional connection there. Now you're less likely to get them to show up and close with you. So there's a magic 3-day number that we want to keep them under. So can we measure it? Are we hitting that metric? And then number 2 is our inbound team, our intake team. Are they, of the people that we've qualified, the marketing qualified leads, the ones that meet our qualification metrics that we talked about earlier, are they converting those at a 55% conversion rate? Or are we failing there? Are we missing that mark? So those are things that we want to measure on there. So number 2 is measurement. And then number 3, that team is going to receive more than just new potential clients coming in. They're going to receive current clients that are calling to get in touch. They're going to receive people that were scheduled for a consult but need to be rescheduled. So do we have processes in place so that we can seamlessly and in a very streamlined way get notes from current client callers to that correct attorney paralegal combination? So that's not an email. That's like they're in their intake system. They're working on their call flow prompt, and they're able to like dynamically enter this in. We're able to track it. That way we can see potentially what we use. Some of what we use this for at Sterling is how many times is our intake team getting calls from current clients. That's typically an indication that an attorney is less communicative with their clients, and we're probably going to be running into a client service issue. So it's a good red flag system, but we know it's going to happen. So like we measure it based on all of the historical data we have, and we can measure it. We can see when one attorney may be way out of normative range. We can see when, this client keeps calling. Like, this is a problem client. How do we get in front of this issue? So there's a lot of things that we can do with that that type of data. And then the other thing is, can we dynamically reschedule appointments? Because if that's super cumbersome and a pain, that's a really bad client experience. So can we, get an remote call in, reschedule, reopen that spot that was taken up for one client and reuse it for a different one, and then get that other client rescheduled. So what's our dynamic rescheduling and communication look like? So those are the three things we're looking for there. Scaled offers, measurement on days to schedule and conversion rate, and then the ability to track current clients coming in and get those messages to the right place. And then number 5 is the ability to dynamically reschedule while we're on the phone with the client, so that we can keep using the calendar to its maximum opportunity. So that's part 2, consult scheduling efficiency. So there are 6 parts. So we're going to keep drilling down here. Number 3 is our consultation process optimization. So this is going to get right up in the business of our attorneys that are doing consultations. There's a lot of opportunity here. So there are 5 points here. So 1 is, do we have personalized, customized multimedia packets that we deliver to our clients when they are leaving? Whether they're leaving a digital meeting, and that's their first engagement, or they're in an in-person meeting. Are we able to, for every potential client, when they depart from that consultation, leave with a multifaceted, customized information packet tailored for their case and their specific details? That's what we want. So do we have something different for divorce versus paternity versus custody actions? Like, do we have those? Do their details of their case get entered into that multimedia packet, so that when they leave, everything they talked about and what you told them, they have that as information? Does it have contact information? Does it have all of the things that we want them to have? Because we can use this as an opportunity to set ourselves apart from everybody else. So, multimedia packet. Number 2, again, I said this before, this is the second part of scaled offers. So do we have scaled offers for our clients as they're coming in, or do we only just pitch full representation? So we should have an offer sheet. We should do the same. This is the next one. We should do the same type of defined, trainable consultation process that we can help our team become really good at doing, so they become really good at sales, not good at reading a script. Because if you read a script, you're going to sound like a clown, and you're not going to do a good job. Every client's going to read through it. They're going to feel like you don't care and you're just reading the script. So if you're doing that, that's worse than doing nothing in a lot of ways. So, but do we have scaled offers? So can we help them see, like, we have coaching opportunities where you come in and you meet with us for an hour. We charge you different for that. We got limited scope. We got full representation. And then how do we scale up from there? How can we create these other offers where it's more full service and it's a greater service, but it's also greater value? You're going to have less people pick it, but what you're trying to do is price set. So, like, do you have potentially a two partner, 2 executive level option? Do you have an option for, super high end? So, like, one of our super high end offers is for each stage of the case, it's $85,000, and you get to meet with a partner and with our business owner, Jeff Hughes, because he is the person that founded the company. He's got 4 different businesses. He knows a lot about business. We pitch this as like our super high end offer. And then we partner him with one of our best legal minds, and they will help handle cases. I don't think we've ever sold one of those, but it's on our scaled offer sheet, and it's there as here's how we think about price setting. So when we go into that defined process, we kind of demonstrate using those scaled offers, using a product feature advantage benefit communication pathway, so that we can really tailor. Here's what we heard you say in fact finding. Here's how you make decisions about this. This seems like what you probably want to do, in our skilled offer sheet. Here's the ideal service based on everything you told me. Here's what some people do, higher, and here's a different option, lower, that you can do. And it's just here's how you actually do a sales process. So you can give them options so they can shop with you. They don't have to worry about the price. You want them to be focused on what you're talking about, not worrying about if they can afford it and all of those things. Because if you don't do that, they're not going to listen. They're not going to be listening to you. They're just going to be thinking, oh, they didn't tell me the retainer. They didn't tell me the retainer. They didn't tell me the retainer. How much is this going to cost? Am I wasting my time? What's happening? We're living in the 21st century. All of us are used to going to the internet and price shopping. If we can get their mind out of that, they will be way better off in the consultation room because they're going to hear the back and forth. They're not going to be stuck in their head. Can I afford it? Can I afford it? Can I afford it? Maybe they can't afford it, but you're still going to be able to deliver a great experience. You'll be able to give them different offers based on your skilled offer sheet that you may be then at a point where you can monetize that opportunity versus they didn't hear anything you said because all they're thinking about is, can I afford this thing? So define trainable consultation process that we want. That's number 3. Number 4, do we have a follow-up process? Does it combine both customized and scheduled follow-ups once they fall off the custom follow-up schedule? Because if we're not following up with people that come in, they're likely going to go somewhere else. That's our job from a sales perspective. And then number 5, are we measuring this stuff? Are we measuring and achieving kind of minimum close rates on these consultations of at least 40%? So these things will help there. So the 5 buckets again are a customized multimedia packet, scaled offer presentation. Is there a defined and trainable consultation process? Do we have a follow-up process? And are we measuring? Are we measuring this by team member? And how are we doing from an achievement perspective? So that's part number 3, consultation process optimization. Number 4, sales automation. So like I said, if there's marketing, sales, and service, if we are doing a great job with marketing, but we're struggling on the sales side, what we shouldn't work on is more marketing, because all we're actually doing is spending more money and we're going to get the same things out. We're not answering all of our calls. So if we're at 60%, we add more marketing, we're just going to go down to 40%. Cool. Nothing had changed. The pipeline didn't get better. We didn't move more revenue through the pipeline because what actually happened is we spent more money to drive more to the top of the funnel. Nothing else changed as it pertains to getting through. And we are in the exact same spot. We're making less money now than we were before because we're not working on the right things. So one of the areas that we can work on instead is sales automation. So what are the buckets here? So there are 4 in this. So do we have a comprehensive communication sequence? So what's happening after a lead gets submitted, whether that's a webinar submission, a workshop submission, just a traditional web lead, I need help with legal services submission. What's happening after that? Do we have a series of content that we're doing that's immediate? Are we hitting them immediately? Are we immediately adding them value? So there's one checkpoint. The next checkpoint is after the consultation scheduling process happens, before the consult. So there's this 3-day period that we can do a really good job communicating our advantage. Here's our team, here's our attorneys, here's how we think, this is why we're great, blah, blah, blah. All of those things. What are we doing from the point of scheduling to the point of consultation? How are we prepping them for that? How are we going to help them maximize their experience in the consultation? We know that most of our sales come after the consultation day. We're going to get a chunk in the consultation. We're then going to get 90% in that first 90 days. What are we doing post-consult to nurture those? How are we nurturing those in that 90-day period? And then what are we doing for those people that are researchers, that everybody has this in their legal CRMs? How are we nurturing them over the next 2 years? Because a lot of people are going to start their research process. They might enter as a web lead to get some information. They might do a webinar, they might do a workshop. Fewer are going to do a consult and then disappear for a long time, but then they're going to come back. How can we make sure they come back to us? How can we add value to them over the next 2 years so that as they're prepping, as they're getting ready, as they're trying to get to the place where they need to get to for themselves, they think we are going to add tons of value to them in this process. So comprehensive communication sequences, we want those. Number 2, CRM-driven automations. So are our leads and potential clients seamlessly and automatically triggered and entered into all of those things that we just talked about? Or do we have to manually manage this stuff and it's really cumbersome and complicated, so it doesn't actually get done? So how are we leveraging our CRM to drive these automations, whether that's email, text message, one-to-one follow-ups using a outbound call center agent, CRM-driven automations. Number 3, multimedia engagement. So I just went through a couple of those. How are we leveraging our lists in programmatic? So that's a paid advertising opportunity. In programmatic, we can take a list and we can target just that person's address, or we can take an email and target just that person where we know they are logged in to different platforms using their email. Do the same thing with phone number. So there's a lot of things that we can do to help continue to drive them down this overall funnel of lead to funded agreement. Are we leveraging email? Are we leveraging video in those emails? Are we leveraging video on different platforms? Are we leveraging text messages? What are we doing from a branding perspective to keep them engaged and keep them seeing our brand as they're working through their decision process? And then number 4, this is measurement again. On all of these things that we're doing, how are we driving and achieving high open and engagement rates on email or in other medium channels? So we're looking for, from an open rate perspective, this is specific to email, we're looking for 35% open rate. We're looking for at least 10% engagements. Those are going to be our minimums on a lot of these campaigns. So again, comprehensive communication, CRM-driven automations, diverse multimedia engagements, and then achieving our metrics, achieving our benchmark metrics. So that's number 4, sales automation. Number 5, how are we capturing data and using it? So this is really, really important. So one of the biggest opportunities that we find is our ability to have detailed event tracking. So how are we date and time stamping what's happening from the point of lead creation to lead qualification that we talked about, to scheduling the consult, to actually completing the consult, to delivering them a quote or a proposal, to client funding? Can we go backwards in time and see when all of these events happened by client? Because if we can't, we're going to have a really hard time measuring, as we change things strategically, what's working better and versus not working better. So a lot of legal CRMs, unfortunately, are real-time reporting CRMs. They're not actually historical reporting CRMs. They lack some of the opportunity to create some of these triggered date time stamped field opportunities. But there are solutions to that we help clients with by pulling their data down often and then turning it into data that we can then consume and analyze in that way. We also help people move over to different CRMs that capture all of this information so that they can see all of this well, and it's set up to scale and grow as they grow their firm. So that's one, detailed event tracking. Second one in this is, are we strategically capturing all of the structured data that we need? So again, many times this is just due to the fact that there's, we're attorneys in the legal space trying to grow our law firm. We're not data scientists. We're not trained in creating structured databases, so that we don't understand that stuff as most people that are running firms. But nobody tells us. So then what we do is just we create fields, and we're doing good stuff, and we're trying our hardest. What we end up with is big, huge data mining projects. We don't know using structured data. We don't have a field for petitioner versus respondent. We don't have a drop-down field for county. It's just a text field. So then, Missy, who's a paralegal, and Johnny, who's a paralegal, they both write it slightly different. So when we try to bring this report together, we got one that's all caps, we got one that's first letter capitalized, we got one that's all lowercase, and those are 3 different data points. So then we have to clean all this data, and it's a big pain in the butt. Same thing with city, same thing with lead source, same thing with different case specifics, like do they have children or not, how old are the kids, how old are they male or female, all of these different demographics that we can pull. Do we have these in structured data, or is it just unstructured data that we will then have to data mine at some point in the future? So that's number 2, data capture. Data capture of more client-specific information in our CRM. Number 3 is related to client-specific data capturing as well, but it's their first-party data. Again, is it structured? Are we capturing the stuff that's coming from our website so that we can re-engage with that data used in different marketing channels? Or is all we have in our database as it pertains to some of that stuff, us asking the question, how did you hear about us? And then we have like six drop-down fields, and one says online, which doesn't really actually help a marketer. So those are great questions, because what that tells you is the client's perception of the last thing that they dealt with, whether that was a TV commercial or a radio commercial or a podcast commercial or a display ad online or Google search online. When you do data-driven marketing, all of those touch points you can capture and you can map. You can see generally there, here's the flow of what's occurring with these clients. All of them are valuable, but this is the last point of entry. So we need to manage this one a little differently, because these are brand and message. This one is conversion. And this one's really important because they're not actually clicking on these, but they're seeing them, and we can see all that data if we're capturing our first-party data and leveraging it well. So that's robust first-party data capture. And then number 4 is, what's our real-time reporting look like? How are we able to see all of this information as a funnel in real time, so we can see this every day? Not do a big project to report on it once a month. What we want to see is, can we create real-time reports so that we can see every day, the previous day, here's our last 5 business days, here's our last 28 business days, here's our last 91, here's our targets. How are we doing in all of these time horizons against our targets? And where are we trending? How are we doing? All that stuff. Because that will help us make lots of decisions as it pertains to all of the other things we talked about here in our revenue operations of where we should be spending our time. Because if we're not answering the phone, driving more marketing isn't going to help. If we're answering the phone well, our sales process is going great, and like everything on the sales side is going fantastic, like we should be driving more marketing so that we can make these metrics get a little worse, because we're going to drive more calls, which means we're not going to perfectly time the hire, so our answer rate's going to go down. We're going to add a new person, our conversion rate's going to go down on the intake team. We're going to drive enough new business that we're going to add a new attorney into the consultation room. They're not going to do a great job on start typically, because it's a new firm, it's a new process, it's new offers. So like, what are we doing to get our metrics to a great place, and then strategically drive them down and then bring them back up, drive them down, bring them back up. And like, what are we doing with that whole system so that we can grow our business and our revenue overall versus silo, just dumping more in. What we found is in our best year at Sterling, it was also the year we pulled back the most for marketing, because it allowed our operations to catch up. And then we pushed more marketing in, and then we're seeing the same exact patterns that we've experienced in the past. Is then we brought more people on, metrics went down a little bit, we'd wait for them to come back up, do some more, up, added more attorneys, some were younger. We saw our NPS scores go down a little bit. Where is that? How do we make sure we're growing well versus just like stuffing the system full of way too much? And then we have problems everywhere, and our reputation goes to hell. So number 5 is data capture and utilization. Again, detailed events tracking, strategically capturing structured data, capturing first-party data, and then real-time reporting. And then number 6, how are we talked a little bit about this before? how are we leveraging our revenue operations reporting? Do we have it? So do we have comprehensive automated reporting? We talked about that a couple minutes ago. Ideally, we have last 7 days, last 28 days, last 91 days, and targets so that we can see how are we trending. We have long-term trends so that we can see charts of the last 25 months. How are we doing? What's our trend line over the last 2 years on these so we can see, all right, here was March of 21, here's March of 22, here's March of 23. How am I doing over that 25-month period? And am I actually growing? Or am I just super happy that it's March because every March, everything gets better because everybody's getting their taxes back, and I'm super happy that it's March, but I don't really know, like, oh, this March is actually down from last March. That's not great. And it's actually the last 2 years now are down. What's happening? What has occurred? That would be bad. Even though you are probably making more money that month, you still have a problem, and we shouldn't be celebrating it because we probably haven't figured the real problem out. So long-term trend analysis. We want targeted metrics. So we want targets for every metric. What is the goal and how are we doing against that goal? And then number 4, we want the ability to identify and understand how to leverage this data so that we can strategically build the business. So we're not pushing down heavy on marketing when we have an operations problem. Maybe marketing should be working on something that's going to drive value in 12 months. So we're going to continue investing here. But what we're actually going to do from like where we're changing the most is here. We're going to maintain here, pull back on driving more leads, but we're going to work on a big content marketing campaign that we're going to launch in 10 months. So that and the goal is these different operations metrics are getting healthy. We're ready for the next growth period because we've already started working on it, and then we turn it on and activate it, and then we see these metrics go back down a little bit because we've added a whole lot more business. We want to see this go back up. So how are we strategically leveraging our business waterfall and our revenue operations reporting to make strategic decisions? So those would be the big 4 on there. So comprehensive automated reporting, long-term trend analysis reporting, targets for each metric, and then the ability to make strategic business decisions based on all of that data. So those are the big 4 or big 6 buckets for revenue operations. This is the magic of how we grew our law firm so quickly. And doing all of this well will help aid in your success because we want to work on things in the right order and at the right time. Doing great work at the right time doesn't actually result in more revenue. It just results in great work that can't be leveraged. And maybe we could have done different work that would have supported a different function of the business better to drive more revenue today so that we could do this stuff in a much more strategic pathway and all feel very successful and happy. So revenue operations is one of the things that we will audit for our clients. Again, this is all documented on that page on our website. Happy to help do this, but encourage all of you to do it on your own because this will really help you unlock your firm's growth.